So let me tell you how my Saturday went. Got up at about 8:30 after a robust 3 hours of sleep so I could hurry up and finish the sights and pack and get my ass off to the airport. Made my flight, had a connecting flight after a 2 hour layover. 4.5 hours of torture on that connecting flight because I sat next to a woman who I swear must have been a roller derby queen earlier in her life, because throughout the flight she inadvertently, I'll say inadvertently, elbowed me constantly through that flight. Loved having those elbows on the side. Get back to Philadelphia, have an hour and a half drive to get back home so I can immediately start handicapping for this busy Sunday card so I can shoot this video at 2:30 Eastern time. Yeah, I got to get a life. But I will say this, it was a lot easier going through all that, even with the roller derby queen, knowing that I had the San Antonio Spurs in the bank. And more importantly, you're happy as well, because I think I was the only handicapper here at the site, I believe, that had the Spurs in the contest. Most guys either passed the game, used the total, or a few had Oklahoma City in that contest. Listen, I love the Spurs, okay? And that's why it was another top-rated 15-dime release for me. But if you had told me they'd win by 20, I would have laughed. To know that they won by 32 in a beatdown, oh my God. I mean, the game was over after the first quarter. You didn't have to sweat it. You knew San Antonio wasn't going to choke at home, right? What an easy win. And best of all, you got it as the half-price play of the day. Just like my winner on the Hawks in game number 6 at Boston on Thursday night, just like the Warriors in game number 5 closing out the Rockets on Wednesday, just like the Pacers in game number 5 against Toronto on Tuesday, just like the Hornets in game number 4 on Monday. You know, I was going for a 7th straight winning day on Friday when I lost with game number 6, my play with the Hornets against Miami. So instead, I came back with the Spurs and made it 7 out of 8 winning days. And today I go for postseason winner number 10 out of 12. I think the best bet on the board is the game between the Warriors and the Trailblazers. I think the other two games, which I'm going to discuss in depth here for you in just a moment, are damn tough. And again, I'm going to make it the half-price play of the day because I continue to prove to you guys that you do not have to spend big money to make big money in doing this thing that we love called gambling. Now, what a surprise. A favorite covered again last night. Favorites are now 27-16 in the postseason. We've had 27 double-digit blowouts. Surprise, surprise, 24 of them by favorites. But the under did not hold true to form. You know, the under has been the play, but not last night. Spurs and Thunder going over. But that's been the exception rather than the rule because the under is still 28-13-1. Overall, no pun intended. Taking a look at the series that are being played, or the first round series that are being played today, let me just point out that the home team is 3-3. What a surprise against the spread. And the Raptors-Pacers series, and then in the Heat-Hornets series, the home team has a 4-2 advantage. Okay, let's get to these games. Let's talk about the Toronto-Indiana contest first. Listen, there is absolutely no momentum for these two teams. I mean, you would think after a big win one of these teams has, it would carry over to the next game. Hell, these teams can't even carry momentum from one half to another. You never know what you get. That's why it's been such a perplexing series. And consider this, when you go back to the 1999 season, I believe it is, you know, the number 7 seed is 1-34 against the number 2 seed. Most recent loser being the Grizzlies in their 4-game sweep at the hands of the Spurs last week. But the Pacers are right there. And look at what the Pacers did. And I'm talking about, again, the tale of two halves in game number 5 or game number 6 at home on Friday night. Do you know Toronto was up in that game 20-8 late in the first quarter? Do you know Toronto was up by 4 points at halftime of that game? And then Indiana just went crazy in the second half. Another strong game by Paul George, 21 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. But really, the emerging star for the Pacers in this series has been the rookie out of Texas, Miles Turner. Another strong game for him. 15 points, 9 rebounds, 4 block shots, all 5 starters in double figures in game number 6. And once again, the Raptors all-star backcourt, DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, just awful, 7 for 27 from the field in that game number 6. The Raptors are shooting just 40.1% for this series. That is 5 percentage points lower than what they shot during the regular season. Now listen, most teams are going to get more defensively amped up in the postseason anyway. And it's also the style of play that dictates that defensive prowess as well, because more teams, you see less transition game, and you see more of a half-court style of play. So naturally, the defensive numbers are always going to improve. But again, you never know what you get from these two teams. Listen, I'm looking at this number at 5.5 points. Toronto's shooting problems are not going to go away. Pacers are playing with confidence. They may not have momentum, but they also have one other thing going in their corner. Game number 5. Listen, game number 5, they were up 14 points going into the fourth quarter. And it took like a 22-3 run for the Raptors to eventually come back into that game, take the lead, and eventually win it 102-99, failing to cover. I think the same thing can happen tonight. I think this could be a 2 or 3 point game. So I'm going to take whatever points I can get. Right now it's Indiana plus 5.5. And I'm going to roll with the Pacers in this game because Toronto has history on its side, and it's negative history because each of the past 2 years, the Raptors have been eliminated in first round action, and this is very reminiscent of what happened to them 2 years ago. Last year, they got eliminated in a 4-game sweep by the Washington Wizards, but 2 years ago against the Brooklyn Nets, they were in the same situation in game number 6. Going on the road, possibility to close out the series, they failed, and then they come back home and lose game number 7. I don't think they're going to lose today, but I do like the Pacers plus the points. Your other game, listen, Miami and Charlotte. How did the Hornets get off the floor? They were right there. They had everything going for them, a 3-2 lead in the series, a series in which they got blown out in the first 2 games in Miami, come back, win games number 3 and 4 at home, sneak off and steal a win in game number 5 on the road, pissing off Dwayne Wade's wife in the process. You know that whole bit with Gabrielle Union and her Twitter feed complaining about the officiating and the lack of calls. What happens? They come back home and they lay an egg. You lose 97-90 in game number 6 on your own floor. And why did you lose? Because the Heat hammered you on the boards. 46-31 rebounding advantage. That led to 19 second chance points for the Heat in that game. Game, set, match. So even though Kemba Walker had 37 points, even though Al Jefferson had 18 points and 9 rebounds, it wasn't enough. One of the problems for Charlotte in that game is that once again, Marvin Williams, who has been feast or famine throughout this series, well, he was famine a big time, 0 for 7, shutout on the board. Jeremy Lin, who had been averaging 14 points a game coming off the bench in the first 5 games of the series, he only had 8 points on 1 for 8 shooting. So now you have a Miami team, a veteran team coming back at home, taking on a Charlotte team that had lost 12 straight playoff games before, winning games 3, 4, and 5. And it's a 6.5 point number. It's a very fair number. My first inclination is that I would lean toward taking the points with Charlotte. But what goes into a young team's mind after blowing the opportunity to close out the series at home? You know, Michael Jordan's not putting on the shorts and coming out and rescuing the Hornets today. Although I would say that Jordan probably at the age of, 50 or 51 could play a little bit better than Marvin Williams has in this series, but that's just a personal opinion. So I lean a little towards Charlotte, but I do like Indiana among these 2 plays. Now, let's talk a little baseball. Oh, by the way, let me find which baseball game I'm going to give you. It's going to be the night game between the Red Sox and the Yankees. And I hesitated a bit because I wanted to see what the line was. This line at 2:30 Eastern time in the morning, I can see the Red Sox at -150, -155. Wouldn't surprise me if it goes to 160. Listen, you play it straight up 150, 155, I would. I have no problem with that. 160 is my cap, but that's about it. You can play it on the run line as well. Either way, I think you're in an advantageous position because the Red Sox have won 8 of their last 11 games, 8-3 roll for the Red Sox, and they've averaged a little over 6 runs in that stretch, and they're batting .312. The Yankees have lost 8 of their last 11, 3-8 skid for New York, and they've managed to score more than 3 runs just one single time in that 11-game stretch. Hell, the Yankees have lost 6 of their last 7 on the road. Red Sox have won 5 of the last 6 in the series, dating back to last season. Yankees, 4 straight losses after losing the first 2 games of the series. They scored a total of 5 runs in those 4 games. Nathan Eovaldi going for the Yankees. Yeah, big deal. He had a 2-0 record and a 3.86 earned run average in 2 starts against New York against Boston a year ago. But, you can't win if you can't score, and that's the problem with the Yankees right now. Meanwhile, David Price, coming off his best performance since joining the Red Sox, dominating effort at Atlanta earlier this week, 14 strikeouts, gave up 2 runs and 6 hits over 7 innings in that game. 8 innings. Now, granted, it was the Braves, and the Braves are impotent offensively, but are the Yankees much better at the plate right now? I just gave you the numbers. I don't think so. Price also in his last 4 starts last year for Toronto against the Yankees, 3-0 with a 1.71 earned run average. So again, I would lay it straight up on the money line with the Red Sox if you can get them under $1.55. If not, I would go ahead and play them on the run line at laying the 1.5 as well. I actually had two free plays yesterday. The one, which was a winner, was Pittsburgh on the run line. The other one was the Cubs and John Lackey on the run line at home against the Braves. That game got rained out. I still like that pick. If you happen to read it on the site yesterday, I would still go with the Cubs on the run line. But just be aware, there's an 80% chance of rain here for Chicago and Wrigley Field for this contest, so it might be rained out again. That's why I wanted to give you another complimentary play, this one being on the Red Sox. That'll do it for your Sunday video. I wish you well, guys, and I'll talk to you again bright and maybe not quite this early on Monday. Good luck, everybody.